And the final question this week comes from Cora Hill. And Cora says, Brian, my name is Cora. I've been watching some of your older videos and can tell your channel has grown and evolved over the years into something completely different than when you started, and I love what it has become. I wanted to ask you more of a personal question rather than a canon question. What made you want to start your channel, and how has your content creation process evolved over the years? Thanks in advance, and I look forward to seeing where your channel goes. Thanks for the question, Cora. And thank you for the kind words also. So this is kind of a longer story. I'll try to give you a little bit more of a nutshell version of it. The Star Wars Canon Podcast started, for those of you that don't know, some of the newer subscribers may not know this. The Star Wars Canon Podcast started as a Facebook page called the Star Wars Canon Library. It was something I started back in, I think, August of 2015. I had just moved to Kansas from Ohio. I was kind of going through a little bit of a rough patch in my life. I had some personal things going on with family. For those of you that don't know the story about my mother and whatnot, we had this huge falling out and everything like that, and just completely cut out of our lives. So I was going through a kind of a rough patch in my life. Kirsty and I were going through a rough patch. And this was leading up to episode 7. I was really excited about episode 7. I had been talking for like 6 or 7 months about wanting to do something to keep up with the Star Wars canon. Because when I was a kid, I was trying to keep up with the EU the best I could, and I just couldn't do it anymore. It got to a point where, Del Rey was talking about, hey, let's release this book by the end of this week. And then it went from that to, hey, let's release these 23 novels before lunch. So it was impossible to keep up with the EU at a point. And I thought this was my chance to wipe the slate clean, keep up on everything, and I can do that. And I'd kind of like to put my opinion out there about some of it, because some of it was good, some of it was bad, and I'll talk about that in a second. But by the time I started the Facebook page, I think the only novels that had come out so far were A New Dawn, Tarkin, Heir to the Jedi, which is horrible, and Lords of the Sith. I think were the only 4 novels that were out when I started. And the only comics that were out were Star Wars, Vader, and I think the Leia 5-issue run had just finished, I think. And that was it. And then we had the films and Clone Wars. That was the only thing that was canon so far. And Darth Maul, Son of Dathomir. So it started as a Facebook page, and I was just trying to upload the covers to the Facebook page and a gallery to kind of keep up on all of it, and a little bit of a timeline of where everything fell. And then that turned into wanting to do YouTube videos. And the first video on the YouTube channel, if you go back and look at it, it is not a good video. It is, I think it was a review for the first TV spot teaser for The Force Awakens, the night before the big trailer dropped for The Force Awakens. And it's not even, I'm not even in the video. It's just like a slideshow of images from that teaser with my voiceover. And I was using Kirsty's dad's karaoke equipment to record it, right? And it was just horrible. And then the very next night, we did the trailer reaction to The Force Awakens, the last big trailer for The Force Awakens. And I didn't have any equipment. I just kind of started it on the seat of my pants. We had a couple of our friends at the time in on the video. Didn't even have the trailer in the video at all. It wasn't even there. And it all you could barely hear it in the background. We shot it with a cell phone hooked to a music stand with a guitar capo. That's all it was. And we were talking into microphones over the speakers in the karaoke room, and that's what the phone was picking up. It was horrible. And the more I started wanting to make more videos, the more I decided I need to change the way I'm doing this. So it turned into almost like a show where I had a friend of mine at the time helping, Andrew Korb, that was kind of helping with the videos. We were just sitting down at a spool with a webcam in front of us, and that was when I started learning how to do video encoding software, started looking more into sound and lighting and whatnot like that, and started looking at some more equipment, some better webcams and whatnot, and how to make an actual show of it. And I started here and there getting better webcams. I started off with some 720s, and then I ended up going up to 1080s, which is what I'm using now. But I had them on tripods at the time. I had 3 cameras set up on it. It'd take an hour to set up to do a YouTube video, a 5-minute YouTube video. So he ended up leaving the channel, and I started working on things on my own and here and there. And I finally, when your YouTube channel reaches 100 subscribers, you can start doing custom thumbnails. And up to that point, it was just a random picture from the video. So when I hit that point, I thought, I was like, holy crap, I can't believe I hit 100 subscribers. I can't believe this happened. So I was able to start doing, and I didn't know a whole lot about making thumbnails. I went to school for graphic design. You would think I'd be able to do a better thumbnail than what I did back then. But I made some crappy thumbnails and just kept going. You know, I just kept going with it, kept going. And then I figured out how to do reaction videos proper with the video down in the corner and whatnot. But it turned into that, and that's kind of what has evolved into this now. And it was still the Star Wars Canon Library at the time, and a lot of people were emailing me saying, did you ever think about changing the name to like Star Wars Holocron or anything like that? It crossed my mind, but at the time, I was in the middle of making a website for everything. And it was the first time I'd ever made a website proper, and it was the Star Wars Canon Library. It was StarWarsCanonLibrary.com. And I had the timeline there. Everything the Facebook page had, I had on the website. And it was kind of, I don't want to say it was rough to maintain, but it was one of those things where I'm like, oh, crap, I got to go update the website. This, and this have come out. I got to put it on the timeline. So I would go do that. But that cost money to keep going. You had to buy a domain name. You had to pay for the website editor. And I was spending more money than I should have been. So I ended up ending the website and going back to just having a Facebook page and a YouTube channel. Now that we're here, like a year and a half ago, I decided I was going to sit down, and instead of doing individual videos every week, 4 or 5 videos talking about different things, I was going to hold it up all for a week and start an actual proper podcast. And my biggest goal was to get it on Spotify and whatnot like that. And I was trying to find different ways of doing it, and I finally, I figured it out, obviously. But now it's the Star Wars Canon Podcast, not the Star Wars Canon Library. And this is a little easier for me to maintain. This is a lot more. I can sit down and just talk. I mean, we've already been talking for over an hour. It doesn't feel like it. I can sit here and talk for an hour about stuff. Instead of making 6 different videos, I can make one big video and then break it up into different segments for people who don't care about, this, they wanted to get this segment, they can just go to this particular segment and watch it, whatnot. And I've already, look, the YouTube channel is already way more successful than I ever thought it would be. And is it successful compared to other channels? No, it's not. But I'm not worried about that. The only reason I have the channel is to put my opinion out there. And sometimes I get lynched for my opinion, you know what I mean? And anything that has to do with Last Jedi, those are usually the first videos to get thumbs downs. And it really is. And I don't care about any of that. I care about the people who want to comment on videos and put their opinion out there, who want to debate back and forth respectfully and say, well, I don't necessarily agree with you on that, but I kind of see where you're coming from. This is what I think. Those are the people I want to interact with. I'm real big on community and finding people that we have something in common that we can actually sit and talk about, that we love. That's why the app is going to have the community tab on it, so we can sit down and actually talk about things that we love. Things we love about Star Wars, things we didn't like about Star Wars. What are you reading right now? What are you reading? I'm reading this. That's a good book. You're going to like that one. That one, I would stay away from it. You can read it if you want, stuff like that. I'm really big on community, and that's why I still keep the podcast going. And even if I didn't have the podcast, I'd still be keeping up on all this canon stuff, because I'm that just OCD about keeping everything, getting everything. But sitting down and actually talking about Star Wars, Kirsty likes Star Wars. She's not on the same level I am. We've been talking about that quite a bit lately with me working on the app. I keep asking her opinion about stuff on the app, and she'll give it to me. But I know she's not as big into Star Wars. She likes Star Wars, but she's not as big into it as I am. And I don't get out of the house much. Basically, when I leave the house, I'm either going to work or I'm going to pick up my comics or a new novel that came out. That's about the only time I really leave the house. And it's not that I'm an introvert or anything, but it's just I would rather sit down and just read Star Wars and then put my opinion on here and talk to you guys. So that's kind of my outlet. It's kind of my escape away from reality sometimes, to be able to come in here and just nerd out and to geek out with you guys. I know I need to work on the Facebook live videos a little bit more. I'm hoping by the end of the year, I'm trying to get one more piece of software. I'm trying to save up a little bit of money and get one more piece of software. I think that's really going to cap everything off with what I need for this. And I'm hoping to save up for that, and by the end of the year have it to where I can start doing some better live videos. So that's kind of why I wanted to start the channel. That's kind of how the process has evolved. Like I said, I went from a cell phone on a music stand with a guitar capo to this, to actually having a full setup and whatnot. Even over the last year, you guys have probably seen the microphones getting updated and whatnot, and I've changed some things around and whatnot. So it's still evolving. It's still the graphics have changed. If you guys hadn't figured that out, it's still evolving, and I'm not entirely sure what it's going to end up becoming in the long run. So I like where it's at right now. I like what we're doing right now. I like having you guys interact with me. I love having you guys comment on things, even if we disagree on stuff, like I said earlier. But right now, I love everything about this. I absolutely love it. So I hope that answers your question, Cora. Thank you for sending in the question. And